all of you are here now. चलो शुरू करें. हो गया फ्रेश? थोड़ी डिस्क घुमा दीजिए. नाउ टू कार्गो फ्रॉम नेविगेशन. Okay, so today what we have done so far was the bulk cargos, preparation, IMS, BC, BLU code. I hope all of you got the notes. Yeah, dear, all of you can hear me?
Yes, sir. So we got the notes, sir.
Okay, very good. Yeah, we'll continue with this. Again, there is a topic on coal concentrate. So let's see, coal is very frequently asked question in your written papers. So please study this or pay attention carefully. It's very simple. So for every cargo, what we have normally is what are the hazards associated with that cargo? Preparation before loading, like hold preparation, what all we are supposed to do, how we will go about it, or even inspection. As a duty officer, if you are starting the cargo, so you should have broadly in mind what to check. And for coal, after loading, during the transit, what all we are supposed to do, what we are supposed to check. And both from examination point of view, from answering your question in returns, even going for orals, because coal is the commodity which is, a lot of coal is imported by India, of course, a lot of other countries also, and accidents are taking place. So MMD surveyors go for investigation, inquiries, so they find a lot of things which are not followed. So please, where the safety is concerned, first thing is the knowing. If I know what are the hazards, what are the dangers, then only I can take precautions. So if I don't know, then the big problem comes. So let's see, coal, Australia, world's largest coal exporter, estimated 240 million tons exported every year. And even other countries like US, Canada, South Africa, and major coal importing countries, Japan, Korea, UK, Germany, India, basically for power generation. So we also know everywhere we have thermal plants. So coal is required for this daily needs, but we need the power, we need the electricity. Now, there basically, if you see, there are 4 categories of coal. First one we call coal slurry, but is like a powder form. This is like a byproduct when this coal is mined, it's taken out from the mines. So naturally, इसका थोड़ा चूरा तो निकलेगा ही. And this mixture of solid coal containing water is obtained as a byproduct during mining, and coal particle size is 1 mm. It's like a powdery form. But it is, now this particular type of coal is dangerous. We have seen the liquefaction. It can liquefy due to its high moisture content, plus it's in a powdery form. Other type of coals you have seen in big lumps, coal, duff, coke. So their size is little bigger, and even if they have the moisture, it trickles down to the bilges. So that's the idea. We keep monitoring the whole bilges daily basis, and as soon as we find water, we keep on pumping out. Coke, solid residues obtained by distillation of petroleum products, half burnt coal with less gas content, and fourth is again your small coal, likely to develop a flow state due to its high moisture content. So if the coal is small in powdery form, then there is a chances of becoming in a flow state, otherwise this moisture trickles down. Now let's see what are the hazards of these coals. Now, if you see the hazards, may have briefly read also before. First thing is the spontaneous heating. Heating on its own. Now, when it is lying in open, you will say why it is not getting heated, because in the open, when it is lying, there is a lot of natural ventilation, natural air is passing, so it gets getting cooled. But when we are loading and we are keeping it in an enclosed place, in a hold, we close it. So there is no continuous flow of air. And freshly mixed coal absorbs oxygen. So this coal which we have loaded into the hold, it absorbs oxygen from the atmosphere, forming peroxides, which breaks up into carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide. Both the gases, of course, carbon monoxide is very dangerous, fatal gas. Now, when this reaction is taking place, it is just reacting with oxygen from the atmosphere. Now, this reaction is exothermic. That means a lot of heat is produced, and which causes further oxidation and more heat. So you will find that slowly the cargo starts getting heated up. At the same time, CO, carbon monoxide, has large flammable range, and besides being flammable, it is toxic also. So if the heat is not dissipated, if it is not taken care, spontaneous combustion can occur. So if the cargo starts heating up, there is a limit and the combustion can take place. Oxidation, of course, depends on the surface area available. So that's why we have a tendency that we don't want the cargo to be broken into small pieces if they load from a height. So if it breaks into small pieces, more surface area, more oxygen observation and absorption, and we will find more of heat is generating inside your holds. So hence breakage of coal into smaller pieces while it's being loaded to be prevented. So you can't do anything, but as a duty officer, what you can say or what you can do is be in touch with the terminal fellow, foreman, supervisor, whosoever is there. So they also take care, they also know initial briefing time. So you can also ask him that should not load the coal from a height, isn't it? And if considerable damage occurs, the smaller pieces will accumulate in the center of the hold, while larger pieces will roll to the sides. So this aggravates the situation, as a large coal gives way for air to flow to the smaller coal where this combustion is most likely to occur. So first danger is a spontaneous heating, mixing up with the air, reacting with oxygen and forming monoxide and your self-heating taking place. Now, second, emission of methane. Now, certain cargo or certain coals, they have a different property. There are different type of coals. Some are liable for spontaneous heating, some are emission of methane. Now, methane gas, I think everyone knows, flammable, dangerous when it mixes with oxygen. It can immediately ignite if little bit of spark is there. So coal emits methane gas particularly immediately after loading and when newly worked or freshly broken. It means it is freshly mined. So methane is a flammable gas, and when mixed with air forms an explosive mixture. Now you can just imagine you are carrying coal in the hold. Now, all the hatch covers are closed, and now if this gas is generating inside, and we have the atmosphere also inside, oxygen also, so that atmosphere or the tank or the hold atmosphere is again flammable. Now any small spark की जरूरत है and it will give a solid explosion. And secondly, it is lighter than air, so therefore it will be accumulating on the upper portions of the hold. And even if sometime your hatch covers are leaking, it may come out on deck, may go into the mast houses, crane houses which are next to your holds. So normally whenever you have this coal, you don't make any man entry into the holds, and in case if there is an emergency it has to be done, then of course SCBA is must, but so far it is avoided. So there was a case that somebody wanted to take a photograph, or the cargo, the cadet goes to take the photograph, So probably he could not take the photograph from top, so he intend going inside the hole. Please never make that mistake. कि चलो डूबी आज से थोड़ा सा नीचे जाएंगे. There was a lot of gas accumulation. So naturally, once you get gassed up, you will fall. You won't know what to do. So now, of course, your days as cadet are over. But now you're going to be a duty officer. So when you are duty officer, make sure that nobody goes or nobody does something like that. So you are in charge and politely make your team that if anybody is going anywhere, you should know it. Now, corrosion, third danger or hazard with the coal is the corrosion. The coal left over earlier mining which was dumped into freshwater ponds. So there is a lot of moisture in this coal, which is normally it is done like that. Even sometimes water is sprayed on this for dust not to fly. And this type of coal gives rise to high temperature from self-heating and in the presence of moisture and sulfur. It leads to release of very diluted sulfuric acid, but this acid will definitely heat up the steel. So you'll have the pitting taking place on the tank top inside the bilges, bilge wells, so which is not a good sign. So the solution is that we keep pumping out if we know that there is a lot of acidic water is there in the old bilges. So it's basically to avoid or to save our holes, bilge wells. So we do this pumping out regularly, and even engine room they have a kit, so they can see this what is the concentration of your acid in the water, in the bilge water. So you can estimate, yes, that there is going to be some sort of corrosion. Now next is liquefaction. I think we have studied enough what is liquefaction, but liquefaction is possible only with a coal slurry or very powdery coal, not with the lumps. And in this case, you know that with the moisture, the cargo migrates to the surface due to compaction, vibration, and resulting in the development of a flow state. And if you are loading this type of cargo, so we have to see the TML, transportable moisture limit. That cargo doesn't contain moisture higher than what is permitted. Otherwise, of course, the top surface can become like a fluid and it is dangerous for the ship. Now your next is precautions. Now what all precautions? Hazards, basically, of course, fire also is a hazard, corrosion, spontaneous combustion, emission of methane, which can cause fire, corrosion. So all these things, and liquefaction for powdery or slurry coal. Now what do we do? How do we carry this coal? So general precautions for carriage. First thing is the cargo information. That what type of coal is this? That it is methane emitting coal, or this coal is liable to spontaneous combustion or heating. So in the IMSBC code, because this book is there, so everything is given in detail. So while on the ship, of course, the chief officer goes, he studies, he may make you aware, but otherwise also, as a second officer, I should also know, isn't it? That what all precautions I am supposed to take. So precautions that need to be taken depend upon the information. Coal is liable to emit methane, IMSBC code, obtain the loading, storage, carriage information, ventilation. So these are the very important things which are in your IMSBC, very user-friendly book in the cargo schedule, appendix 1 if you go. So it's written in detail. Now before loading, again preparation, inspection, or just see that these are the very broadly main things what we will see. We have seen this, how we will prepare the holes. But again, for your answer in the question paper, when you are writing, so we have to write this, yes, whenever I have to prepare the holes, I make sure bilge wells cleaned, residual cargo removed, suctions tested, and then it is covered. So bilge cover is again covered with burlap or Hessian cloth so that only the water can go, but no cargo goes, or no powder, or nothing goes which can block the bilges, and then we cannot pump out. Hatch top wheels and associated equipment should be greased, because there is a possibility when we are opening these bulk carriers have side rolling hatches, hatch covers. So if the wheels are just sliding, not moving, there is a chances of spark, and coal can have your gases like methane, which can catch fire. Electrical cables, cargo hold lights, other equipment within the hold should be checked for insulation damage. Normally bulk carriers, you don't have this lighting system, but in case if it is fitted on your ship, the best thing is switch the power off from the main switchboard. So no need, because we don't need this. And whenever you come even on the loading and discharging terminals, these gantries who are using the grabs, there is enough lighting, so there is nothing to worry about the lighting. So best thing, in case you have, switch off from the main breaker. Again, certain instruments आपने hold check कर लिए, they are clean enough, bilges are cleaned, covered up, no damages, everything is in good order. And then we have to see that we have these instruments also. So of course we must have worked with the chief officer, and when you go on the ship join, so you know that for methane, oxygen, carbon monoxide, just to check the levels that we have, the equipment, explosimeters, oxygen analyzers. I don't know how many of you have used, but of course the boys who have worked on tankers, they must have used all the equipment, and for that you know the precautions, calibration, that it is giving you the correct readings. Then to check the hold temperature, which is also a daily practice at sea, that 2 or 3 times you check the hold temperature. So we need thermometers. There are permanent temperature pipes with a cap on top, so you can check the temperature forward and aft part of the hold with these special thermometers. They are basically covered in a steel conduit, so that when you are lowering, they don't get damage in the temperature pipes. pH of the bilge water, again this engine room has got a kit, so they can analyze if the water is acidic, so that can inform you. Otherwise also, whenever the water is getting, or the bilge is getting filled up, we keep pumping out, of course keeping MORPOL into mind. And installation of these instruments or taking measurements should be possible without entering the cargo space. Not that somebody sends you, or you send somebody, okay, we temperature dekhna, and he goes open the movie hatch and then goes inside. No, there are temperature pipes permanently fitted. As I told you, like sounding cap, you have the caps, and you just open the cover cap and load the thermometer. You can note down the readings. And again, arrangements to calibrate and test the instrument should be there. Also, coal should not be stored against hot bulkheads. Extra monitoring should be implemented when coal is loaded in holds adjacent to hot areas. Sometime maybe you have the fuel tanks, double bottom fuel tanks. The engine room heats up the oil for transferring. So there also we have to be careful that the temperature doesn't go very high. So then heat up only as much minimum is required. Or sometimes engine room bulkheads, normally these engine room bulkheads, the last hold which is common, the engine room side, it is insulated, so heat doesn't get transferred on the hold side. But again we have to see type of ship, construction. Ideal place to monitor temperature is the center of the stove, but you may not have pipe in the center of the stove, otherwise it will get damaged while loading, discharging. So if the temperature is measured from side, top or corners of the hold, it must be remembered temperature at the center will be little higher. So that is normally we keep a record. At forward and aft, port, starboard, wherever you are taking the temperature. So we just slightly, we assume that the temperature in the center will be slightly more, because we have seen more exposed area, more spontaneous combustion, more heating in the center can take place. No smoking policy. Of course, this is again one of the biggest precaution. Not only for the ship's crew, of course, ship's crew know everyone. The shore people who come to load and unload. So there you got to put your foot down, and you have to have the means. First thing is, just near the gangway, put your smoking board. like tankers and all that, we have written everywhere, no smoking, smoking not permitted. So most of the people working ashore, they see. And then in case you find any shore fellow, ask him not to do it, or higher up authorities, because it is going to cause danger to everybody. Now comes the ventilation. So these are the precautions during transit. After loading, first we have to have the instruments, we keep checking the temperatures, morning, evening, whatever is there, and then ventilation, how the ventilation is to be done, because we know if we introduce more air, it will have more oxygen, or more, spontaneous heating can take place. But it depends again what type of coal is this. If more spontaneous heating is taking place, or it's possible that spontaneous heating is, or the heating is not, self-heating is not taking place, but there may be a lot of emission of methane. So there we can do the ventilation only just to, surface ventilation just to remove the gases. So except where the shipper provides specific instructions to ventilate the cargo, compartments should only be ventilated for first 24 hours and after departure from the loading port, and then we close and seal the holds. And there should be a regular monitoring of atmosphere to check concentration of pH also, and we keep checking this presence of methane also. So you have the instrument which can give you the values of methane, how much it is, what is the level, and if it is increasing or remaining steady. So ventilation should only be continued if the amount of methane rises above the acceptable levels, and should be utilized only for removal of gases. Surface ventilation, what we call, no through ventilation. And hold should also be ventilated prior to discharge. Discharging may be ski precaution. At transit, of course, we have taken care, keep on checking the temperature, keep on checking the methane level. The cargo is not getting heated up. And then when we come to discharge port, so there also, before opening the hatch covers, not that immediately we go. As I told you, there are side opening hatch covers, or even whatever type, hydraulically, folding type. So there is a possibility of sparks getting generated. The best thing, it is advised that we do a little bit of ventilation prior opening the hatch cover just to remove the gases. Or sometimes it is just a little bit hatch cover is open, let the natural ventilation take place, and then open the hatch covers. Now the gases may escape the cargo compartment to adjacent stores, mast houses and all that. So it is not only the holds. So on these ships you got to be careful. Whenever you are doing any job, any work, that your forepeak store or other mast houses may containing these gases. So it is a good idea to check with the meters that if there is any presence of such gas. And again, higher pH value reading indicates likelihood of increased corrosion, acid formation, and bilges should be kept dry by pumping out accumulated water. So that is also another thing to save the holds from deteriorating. However, records, of course, we will keep the records. Why? Because if there is excessive quantity of water, then there can be a slight difference in the cargo figures. So anyway, chief officer keeps a record, or any time on any ship we pump out the bilges, we keep a record that we are pumping out the bilges, how much water is coming. So that just problem. Not only update the information, also seek any clarification. Normally, instruction doesn't come, we have enough books to consult. And if the shipper has declared the cargo is liable to emit methane or methane cargo LEL. So we will see after this, once we do the tank, start this tanker, then we will come to this lower estimate, and following additional precautions should be taken. That is, again, there is a presence of methane, oxygen, the atmosphere is flammable. extra precautions required while on deck.
सर आपकी आवाज आनी बंद हो गई।
सर आप अटक गए।
ठीक है, until gases have been removed should be opened carefully. ये सब तो हम करेंगे। सेल्फ हीटिंग कोल्स के लिए if the shipper has declared cargo is liable to self heat, then again we should seek additional guidance on adequacies of existing precautions and analysis of the atmosphere of the cargo compartment basically indicates an increased carbon monoxide concentration. If there is either methane increasing at the self heating, reaction is taking place, so there will be more and more of CO being generated, so carbon monoxide being generated, so the level of that gas will go up. So we have the instrument to measure that also. So in case you find the level of CO2 is going up, so it gives a good indication that the cargo is getting self heated. And again we are monitoring temperature also. So what we can do is only the cooling, isn't it? So we can just keep the decks hatch covers so that the temperature doesn't rise enough. Hatch cover should be closed after loading, additional seals applied, and surface ventilation should be kept to minimum, and carbon monoxide concentration should be regularly measured and recorded. So the best thing is a total sealing up, no air going inside, so that will basically will not let this self-heating go up. And if the whole temperature exceeds 55 degrees centigrade or carbon monoxide concentration rises steadily, and then expert advice should be sought. So this is also equally important that we have to be careful the temperature should not exceed 55. So this is how basically your coal fire looks like. Suddenly you open the hatch, some spark has taken place or there was a flammable atmosphere, the coal was heated enough so it can catch fire. Now to fight these coal fires, if there is evidence of coal burning, the space should be closed, ventilation stopped and sealed against entry of air. Boundary cooling to be carried out at sea, no water or steam to be applied directly to the coal. So this you got to be careful, as the coal reduces the water to hydrogen and forms carbon monoxide, both flammable gases. So introduce CO2 or inert gas, whatever the system is or the ship is fitted with, and best is to seal the hatch covers. Fire will die on its own death. So this is important for the coal fire. Okay, so this is basically regarding your coal hazards preparation. You have studied the whole preparation and you have plenty of points to write for the whole preparation, and then during the transit regularly monitoring of the temperatures, hold bills level, and your basically the levels of these gases, methane, CO2, and ventilation if need to be carried, only surface ventilation to remove the gases. That's all. So this is most important, and इसके साथ ही हम थोड़ा सा देख लेते हैं about the concentrates. So ये तो था आपका coal का, and now high density cargos. Coal is also not so high density as compared to other ores you load. So high density cargos when we are loading, so उनके साथ क्या क्या problem है. So high density cargos basically, which we have seen that yesterday when we were discussing IMSBC, structural hazards. Now, structural hazards are when loading a high density bulk cargo having a stowage factor of 0.56 meter cube or lower. The loaded conditions are different from those found normally. So it is important to pay particular attention to the distribution of weights. So high density cargo में सबसे पहली precaution is the structural hazards. And your normal ships is normally constructed to carry materials up to so much of stowage factor 1.39 to 1.67. But because of high density of some materials, it's possible by improper distribution of loading to stress very highly either the structure locally under the load or the entire hull. So high density cargoes में सबसे पहला is the structure, check the distribution. Stability hazards also can be there. Initial GM very high because you are loaded high density cargo which is just at the bottom of the ship covering only maybe few meters. The entire hold is empty. So you have very large GM, so which will cause basically excessive rolling, isn't it? So cargoes occupy very less volume. So that's why the center of gravity of the cargo is very low. And as a result, आपकी जो GM है that will be excessively high. So your ship will be what we call a stiff ship and violent movement. So this is also not good. It can cause lot of stresses on the ship. Or it can be initial GM very low, but normally this is not the case. In case you are loading cargo or these high density cargoes on the twin decks, then it is possible. But nowadays, of course, we have these specially designed bulk carriers which have no twin decks, just the one complete hold. The possibility of GM high is very much there. Now precautions, high density cargoes के लिए to ensure bulk cargoes are properly distributed throughout the ship and structure will never be overstressed and the ship will have an adequate standard of stability. And to do this effectively, of course, there is a lot of information by the shipper, adequate information about material, stowage factor, history of shifting, any particular problems. Otherwise, we have the books, IMSBC also to consult. They also give you a lot of guidelines to prevent the structure being overstressed. Is again up to the chief officer when he is doing the planning. So of course, your load indicator you see, but if you do the equal distribution, whatever is given in the loading manual, never there is a problem. So यहाँ पे requirement है कि yes, the captain or the ship staff should be provided with again the loading information. तो आप when you come for the chief officer's course, you will see loading manual क्या होता है, उसके अंदर क्या क्या information है to arrange the loading on board his ship not to overstress and should be guided by the loading information provided in the ship's stability booklet also. वहाँ पे भी worked out conditions दी होती हैं. So you can make out what is the best condition or how much your GM when you work out. We take precautions accordingly. Cargo should be loaded as uniformly practical throughout the hold to reduce the local stresses. Sometimes trimming can reduce if you have a pile in the center of the hold. So definitely all the weight is coming only on that area. But if you trim it, spread it all over across the hold, then of course the stresses are basically distributed. Now they say when detailed information is not available for this high density material on the cargo ships, which are now very rare, but sometimes in case on the cargo ship this type of cargo is to be loaded, high density cargo in 1 or 2 holds, and general fore and aft distribution of material by mass should not differ appreciably. That is found for the general cargoes. And the maximum number of tons of material loaded in any cargo space should not exceed 0.9 lbd. So here L is the length of the hold, B is the average breadth, and D is the summer draft. So maximum quantity we know that so many tons we can load if you do not have any information. Only you have information, then no problems, then we can decide. Ship's loading manual has got a lot of information. Otherwise we apply this formula. So where material is untrimmed or partially trimmed, the corresponding height of the material pile, if you load like in the center of the hold above the cargo space floor, should not exceed. Now pile की जो height, in case sometimes you have a cargo which is loaded in this condition, which you may not be able to trim, so then the height of the pile should not be more than 1.1 into D into storage factor. your storage factor is given in cubic meters per ton, and D is your again summer draft. So if the material is trimmed entirely level, maximum number of tons of material loaded in any lower hold cargo space may be increased by 20%. So you already distributed the weight, then you can increase by 20% by the amount calculated by above that formula B. That's 0.9 LBD, so we can increase by 20% if I trimming. And now, because of the stiffening effect of, like, some of these cargo ships used to have machinery space in the center, and naturally the shaft is passing, and in the hold if there is a shaft tunnel, of course nowadays you don't carry the small consignments of cargo, but this is coming from the old times, that in case your hold has got this some type of shaft tunnel, then only 10% in excess you can load. But basically आज के ships के लिए, when you are loading these high density or concentrates in the bulk carriers, the shipyard gives enough precise loading instructions for these cargoes in your loading manual, stability booklets. So all the data is given. And to aid to stability, a booklet should be provided. That is, of course, all the time is there. And I should be able to calculate the stability for anticipated worst conditions during voyage. And high density material should normally be loaded in, of course, lower hold cargo spaces rather than in twin decks. So you can write this, that yes, in case you have a ship, general cargo ship type, then you have a twin deck, so we prefer to load only in the lower hold. So twin deck, of course, I won't stress much on this. Now, whenever we are transporting this material, it should be, known the consequences, that with excessive GM, what can happen. Or sometimes these bulk carriers, just to reduce them or just to have a little lesser GM, so we do alternate hold loading, but that is again possible only if the ship is strengthened to do that. So alternate hold means you leave one hold empty, you load in 1, leave number 2 empty, 3, 5, 7, 9. So naturally the quantity will be more and cargo will be quite higher up as compared to the if you load or distribute the cargo in all the holds. So there also you got to be careful that you have to see in the books that the ship is designed for this type of what we call alternate hold loading. So that is again for the bulk carriers. Sometimes I have also done, some of the ships are strengthened enough. उसके अपनी advantages that you can load, you can save cargo hold cleaning, time बच जाता है, and also GM also is effective. You are comfortable, ship is not rolling violently. So high density cargo, general precautions before loading: cargo space is inspected, prepared for particular material, and ensure bilge lines, sounding pipes, other service lines within the cargo space are in good order. And also, because of the velocity at which some high density bulk material loaded into cargo space, so there is a possibility of damage. So again, यहाँ पे initially we should load this cargo at a slow level and from a less height. Not that loader is at his peak and then he is dropping the cargo on the tank top. So definitely steel is steel, it can get damaged, or any other fittings can also get damaged. So that's why we always say that after loading, check the bilges that no water is coming, no cracks, nothing has taken place. And attention is particularly drawn to bilge wells, strainer plates, especially prepared to facilitate drainage to prevent entry of materials. So this is our whole preparation. I think we have been doing it, covering up the bilge covers with the burlap or the hashing cloth. And again, also dust. Most of these bulk cargoes, they have dust. So it is a good practice. Normally the chief also does that. So even we cover up all the winches, all other things which can get, where the dust can get accumulated, and even you put the AC on the internal circulation, not that the air conditioning system for your accommodation which is working, that should not suck all this dust. So वहाँ पे भी problem आ सकती है. Any moving parts of machinery, winches, where you have done the greasing, So this dust will go and catch up on the grease, then also problem. So bulk carriers, you have these canvas covers and all that, so you have prepared before that you cover up these areas. So this is also additional precaution when you are loading this type of cargoes. So wherever possible, ventilation system should be shut down or screen, but I say the air conditioning system. And again, cargo should not fall into the empty hold from a height. So this is what we cannot do, but we can only advise this terminal that he can lower his loader conveyor belt maximum what he can do that. And again, they are loading at very high rate, ballasting or deballasting sometimes becomes a problem. So we have to see that your deballasting rate is also popping up. Otherwise, of course, आपने देखा होगा when you have seen in the BLU code, there is a checklist that initially there is a discussion that in case if it goes out of synchronization, that they start loading too fast, we cannot deballast. So then we ask the terminal to slow down or stop. Because once the cargo is loaded, then you may not be able to take out the ballast. And then cargo loading will, the amount of cargo will be short. No problem may be, and we don't want to land up. चलो ये तो आपकी these are the problems with your high densities. So ये भी आपको मैं भेज दूँगा. Please go through this. And sulfur, sometimes they ask you about sulfur also. उसके भी notes you can go through, read what are the properties sulfur again. So all these bulk cargos, their hazards, dangers are almost similar to most of them. So that's all we have. So any questions, anything which not understood? क्या कहते हैं? I hope it is easy. So coal, high density cargos, concentrates, very common questions are there at your level, and hazards preparation and precaution during the transits. So एक दो बार आप पढ़ोगे, understand करोगे, so you can write in your own language. But please, when you answer, that should be very clear that